The program will begin in 10 minutes. Please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. The program is about to begin. Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg Businessweek's Tim Stenovec.
Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. It's so good to see so many familiar faces here, some folks who were here last year. Welcome back. Welcome to Bloomberg's The Business Value of AI. This is our Atlanta event. I'm Tim Stenovec. I anchor Bloomberg Businessweek TV and radio. Whether you're with us in person today here in Atlanta or joining us from somewhere around the world on the live stream, we're thrilled to have you with us. AI is poised to transform the way we work. In fact, I would argue it's already transformed the way many of us in this room work. What we're all trying to figure out, and I know what you're all trying to figure out, is how to get a return on that investment through meaningful enterprise-wide efficiencies, going out and solving those business problems. We're talking about supply chain stability, delighting customers in a new way, and a way that's scalable, safe, and affordable. This afternoon's briefing gathers business and tech executives, and what we're going to do is we're going to have them share their experiences and provide insight into their strategy. How are they deploying AI that achieves a desirable return on the investment? The overall result is a stronger, more nimble business and one that's better equipped to win in a challenging and dynamic market. Before we get started this afternoon, I've got a couple of announcements. First, I would like to acknowledge our sponsor, IBM, who we are excited to hear from just a little bit later in the program. Also, if you have any questions throughout the event for our panelists, what you can do is you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen, and we'll try to get to whatever we can live on stage. We also want you to engage with us on social media. To do that, you can use the hashtag #ValueOfAI, where you can follow along with today's highlights. We'll also be sharing highlights and engagement using the handle @Bloomberg Live, so feel free to tag us there as well. Now let's dive into this afternoon's program. Our first guest today is an expert. He's got vast experience empowering customers with AI solutions. Please welcome to the stage IBM's Greg Pollock for opening remarks.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. As Tim said, my name is Greg Pollock. I am a data platform lead here in the Southeast, and I'm really excited and honored to be providing some opening remarks for today's program around the business value of AI. I've participated in a few of these events with IBM and Bloomberg, and they're honestly some of the best that we do. I'm really glad that all of you are here. It's really, the reason I love these events is because it really brings together a diverse set of participants and audience from lines of business, from technology, IT, HR, and really the important thing that I'd like to get across today is that this is really a cross-discipline collaboration, right? Everyone here is here to learn from each other and learn how to deploy practical AI in their business. And not just practical AI, but practical AI that drives real business value, right? And so, not one that delivers hype. And so today's really, I got two present day imperatives that we have to and opportunities that we have to deal with AI. The first of which is, how do we reclaim time, right? How do we get better productivity from our employees, from our organizations? How do we delight our customers, right? In IBM, we use AI agents to automate complex workflows, right? We're pioneering as client zero in this space to use AI agents and generative AI to make our employees more productive. And the reason we do this is to improve decision-making and improve our customer experience and improve our employee experience. And in doing so, we've done a great job in creating these pre-built AI agents that improve all of our customers' ability to deploy agents and deploy AI inside of their business, improving productivity up to 70% and reducing the amount of IT complexity that goes into deploying these agents. The second one, and one that I want to double down on, is data. Data is your competitive advantage. Not just all data, but your enterprise data, the data that makes your business work for you and for your customers. It is really important to build AI, right, leveraging enterprise data that's more relevant, that's accurate, and it's more strategic to your business, okay? It is really the strategic imperative to leverage your existing data, and recent studies have shown that most enterprises are really only leveraging less than 10% of their enterprise data towards AI projects. And so it's really a strategic differentiator for everyone in this room. So what we want to do today is get ourselves from the hype to meaningful impact, right? And the enterprise strategic businesses that we operate today are really the ones where are getting the most strategic value from AI. Right? The early adopters, IBM is a big proponent of that. We talk about our $3.5 billion saved. I think, Maureen, we might be up to 4.5 at this point. But it's really, everyone in this room has realized some benefit from AI, right? And the reason we do this is to improve decision making, to improve the speed of innovation within our organizations, and to help get our employees off doing manual tasks. And the real thing that we need to start focusing on is moving from pilots to production. So I think a lot of us in this room have done a lot of experimentation. We've tried different things. We've learned by failing, right? And today is really about bringing all of our community together to talk about case studies. You'll hear from some of your peers today of lessons learned, what's working, what's not working. And right, the agenda here is really about finding proven strategies with AI that deliver return on investment. Right? How do we ensure scalability? I think Tim mentioned it. How do we ensure safety? Important to focus on governance. How do we govern the AI? That's a big, important strategy that many customers are trying to figure out that we work with today. And also affordability. Affordability at enterprise scale is very difficult to do with the rising cost of how AI implementations are going. So really today, it's not meant to be a one-way lecture, although for some of you online, it might be, but we encourage you to get on social and hashtag and ask your questions. We really want this to be a two-way dialogue, a conversation amongst all of us as peers, as business leaders and executives in this room. And I encourage everyone to ask thoughtful and provocative questions, to share your perspectives, to not be shy, to be really open. And I challenge everybody in this room to think about, as we go through the case studies today and we learn from our peers, to take one or two of these ideas that you learned today back to your office, back to your company as you go back to work, and think about how you can deploy those within your organization. How can I do something differently that I learned from somebody in this room who's maybe doing something a little bit differently than we do? So really, the idea here is to position AI as a tool for building smarter, faster, and more resilient enterprises and be adaptable to change, right? The AI market and the technology is evolving so fast, you have to really be adaptable to change. But really, at the end of the day, the thing we have to do, and I think encourage all of us to think about, is seize the opportunity. This is an opportunity to make strategic investments in AI to not only make our businesses more productive, but to find new revenue streams, to make our customers happy, to meet them where they are with the technology they want to consume. So with that, I'm going to thank you all for being here and thank you all from the live stream. And I hope you enjoy a great program today. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're looking forward to a very exciting conversation. We're going to dive into creating the data foundation for an optimal customer experience, and that spans multiple industries. We have an experts of panel members here. Mallory Freeman, she's Vice President and in charge of Enterprise Data Analytics at UPS. We have Manav Misra, he's Chief Data Officer at Regions Bank. And we have Prasanna Dore, he's Chief Data Officer at Fiserv. So as you can see, we're covering payment processing, consumer and retail banking, as well as transportation and logistics. So we have a broad expertise here. As Tim had mentioned, please use a QR code. You can scan your questions. We'll field it throughout our discussion. So as Greg mentioned, we're going to dive into real use cases, and let's kick things off. We're talking about the data foundation, the data stack, the data infrastructure for organizations. Prasanna, can you give us some context and a framework on the different elements in the data stack, how it has changed over time, and what should we be doing in terms of investments at each element as we consider AI applications?
Thank you. I look at the investments in the infrastructure in three wide categories. And the first one, I would say, scale and demand. The second thing I would say is all data in one place. And third, I would say, finding meaning in data. And I'll sort of give a high-level overview what I mean by that. Scale on demand. And those of you know, I think 2006 when Amazon launched AWS EC2 and ES3, which is the storage and computing capability in the cloud, that sort of launched the cloud computing in mainstream. Yeah. Then in 2012, some of you may know that GPUs were available in the cloud, and this sort of shifted. I would say this shift to the cloud sort of democratized AI. So any company with any size could go and get access to AI applications. And this, you don't have to go invest billions of dollars to try to create IT infrastructure. And this pay-as-you-go changed the game. And this is the first one, scaling. The second thing about, all data in one place, I don't know if you recall, in 2004, Hadoop helped us create, at least save unstructured data, like weblogs and things like that. And then in 2012, we had the data lake concept being introduced, which was basically just saving both unstructured data and structured data. Then in 2017, the lakehouse architecture was introduced, which sort of combined the flexibility of the data lake and the dependability of the warehouses like Oracle and IBM DB2. So this unique combination of data, which is not only bringing all the data together, but also the dependability of the warehouses, was another movement, another infrastructure investment. And the third one, when I say finding meaning in data fast, if you recall, to a large extent till about 2017, the way the data was being retrieved was using keyword searches, And then, and the way I normally describe is that a keyword search is like, you're looking through a keyhole and then trying to look at the data. But 2017, as you all know, was an incredible year where the whole technology of transport technology was introduced, where you just don't look at and the whole self-attention, if you recall, was introduced, and the idea was that the way I explained self-attention is like, hey, you don't have to go look through a keyhole. You can open the whole door and look at the whole sentences, and that was I would say, pivotal point where you could go look at the whole sentence, look at the meaning of the words, and also the context of it. And that was a very pivotal moment where that sort of started the whole LLM, GPT kind of revolutions. And so these three things were really, I would say, infrastructure investments, in data. So in short, 2006 gave us scale. 2012 to 2017 gave us unified data, and then 2017 onwards is the whole LLM and GPT. So these were the three important structures in the data stack. Yeah.
Let's hitchhike off this point about scale. And Mallory, in terms of logistics, transportation, the amount of unstructured data that UPS has to manage, how has that evolved in terms of your technology and your investment in your infrastructure layer?
Sure. So great question. If you look at kind of the whole theme of this event, the business value of data, the underpinning of that value is being able to turn data and AI models into actual solutions for our customers. And so we have a ton of data at UPS, as you can imagine. And so as we look at the best ways to turn our data into information into knowledge into wisdom, building out the right structures and foundations through our data strategy, and in setting up kind of our entire enterprise for being able to turn data into value is really the cornerstone of our work. So if you look at UPS as a whole, innovation is just in our DNA. We were founded in 1907, and we're a technology company to our core, again, seeking the best way to make an impact for our customers. And let's talk about something right now that's certainly hitting complexity. We're all trying to navigate changing international conditions and trade. So that's a big deal for our customers. So if you look at the data that we have at UPS, so we've got 20 petabytes of data ready and curated for AI, structured and unstructured. Our total data state is multiple times more than that. And just for context, you can think of that as easily 3 times the size of the entire Library of Congress. So how to take all of that information and make a better customer experience. Here we have our next-gen brokerage suite of tools that enable that global commerce. And so taking things like how do you expect the in value of a good moving across a border? We've got global checkout that actually allows customers, and is the only one in our industry, to guarantee a landed cost at the time of purchase. How do we do it? How do we get that customer solution in this time of tremendous complexity? We tap into our models. We tap into the insights that we have about past traces and mapping goods to those harmonized codes that are really the backbone of international trade. We bring in Gen AI assistance through our Export Assure suite that allows those that are navigating a shipment to understand the best way to move that shipment through to final completion. And then as a package is actually moving through, we're following the trail of a package for operational efficiency, even more stream of data, and as well if a customer has a question along the way, we're leveraging things like our virtual assistant, our chatbot. So data is powering every aspect of that global supply chain, simplifying the customer experience. And our goal as technologists within the organization is to unlock the business value for our partners across the enterprise.
There's a lot of interesting points here, and I think one of the topics that come to my mind is the technology investment and how fast we move from the big data analytic area to now AI. Manav, how are you modernizing your legacy systems? Because when I heard Hadoop, and there's a whole bunch of NoSQL databases out there, how have you pivoted, or was there a case where you said, okay, we've made enough of an investment in this type of data warehouse solution or database technology, and now we have to pivot for the AI era?
Yeah, and if you're familiar with Regions Bank, if you trace back some of the preceding banks that came together to form what is Regions today, they go back decades. So we're now in 15 states with retail banking, and then nationally with some of our commercial banking, and 20,000 employees. But all of those preceding banks that came had their own technologies, and those came together. So we rode all the waves that Prasanna talked about, going even further back than that with mainframe systems and enterprise data warehouses and relational systems, and then on to Hadoop, and then on to lake houses, and now a cloud-based infrastructure that allows us to get views of our customers in real time and be able to address their needs in the moment. So whether it's servicing these customers, so if they want to come to a branch and get their address changed, or call our contact center, or go onto the mobile app, an omni-channel view into their needs and addressing that, but also stopping fraud in real time, and being able to do all of that allows, or is enabled by that data infrastructure that we've built out, that foundation, which is now more and more progressing onto a cloud-based lakehouse with a variety of AI tools that we deploy there.
And I think, as we move along this data technology migration or evolution, keeping customer consistency and accuracy, how are you able to manage that, Prasanna?
Consistency in data is very important. And when I say consistency, it is making sure it's the same thing represented in the same way everywhere. I mean, that's consistency. And for instance, we support more than 3,000 banks. So a loan portfolio, for instance, a loan application could have, some processor recording something as a monthly income, and someone could have another bank could record it as a annual income. So if it's not consistent, AI is not going to work. Okay. So what we do, consistency, we look at 4 dimensions of consistency. One is obviously labels, which is important. You've got consistent on labels. Second thing is on units. Then third is on formats. I mean, this goes on. And also finally, semantic, search. Is there consistency on that? An example I give is that, hey, if you see okay, is okay neutral or is okay good? So one of the things we got to be careful is that consistency is one of the important aspects that we keep looking at, and we measure that on a regular basis.
Maybe Mallory, from your eyes, how do you think of data accuracy and this demand in terms of all the route optimization you're doing in terms of movement of packages for a wide variety of businesses across a whole host of geographies? How have you been able to manage that aspect?
Sure, and great question, because the precision of data, especially when it comes to last mile logistics, whether it's the very location of a loading dock or a preference for exactly where and when a pickup or a drop-off can occur, that can be the make or break in terms of minutes of delivery. That adds up to huge impact in terms of sustainability and our cost to serve, quite frankly. So we look, as the other panelists have mentioned, and really strong to see strong technology background being the underpinning. So having accurate data available for our AI models is the very foundation of turning that data all the way through the knowledge, wisdom, information pyramid. And so as we look at what it can mean to UPS, it's not just about saving money or having a more efficient operation. Again, it goes back to that customer first mindset. So, and it's a customer first organization, it's what will make a better experience for our customers. Can we use the precise trail of information about a package as it moves through our network to provide an even better experience, whether that's navigating an international border, as I talked about earlier, doing that with more simplicity than ever, whether it's providing a more accurate prediction of when a package will arrive, or whether it's feeding a prediction actually into an algorithm to allow you to have a better delivery because we've been able to classify an address or talk about exactly where and when a package can be delivered. So throughout our network, we've got tools like Orion doing last mile logistics, our network suite of tools, helping with that, fleet of planes, trains, and our tractor trailers that are out moving goods across the country, across the world. And again, how to weave all of those things together. Well, it's not just a scanning network anymore, it's actually a sensing network. And taking that real-time data drives efficiency, but even more importantly, that customer experience.
And Manav, you get to handle both aspects, consistency across your customer base as well as accuracy. What is the bigger challenge as we look at AI applications that you're trying to support?
Yeah, so as I described, we've got lots of legacy systems, and one of the big challenges was how do we get information out of these systems, which are designed for batch processing. So typically in the old world, every night you would get a data load, and then you could then bring it into an enterprise data warehouse, set it up for analysis for next day. Now we're looking at being able to provide the same view to all our bankers across channels, all our customers in digital tools. How do you get that data out of those systems? How do you then distribute it in really short order to all the possible consumers of that data? And so we had to implement change data capture from the mainframe system. So when something changed, you captured it instantly, you brought it out, it was then made available through a publish and subscribe mechanisms to all possible consumers. We had to have a no latency database that would allow us to then consume that. So we've built out an architecture that we call customer DNA, which essentially brings together all this data in real time and gives us a view into our customer, which can then be used for things like real-time marketing purposes, so giving them insights and recommendations on things that they may want to do, fraud protection of those customers, and a number of other things that we do. They're servicing their requests in real time across channels.
A lot of perspective here. Now we're going to enter into the AI applications and kind of the dominant theme of the day, Gen AI, large language models. Prasanna, how are you having your coworkers develop applications working with LLM?
Before I answer that, I also want to talk about data quality, which is, I think the way we look at it is fit for purpose. I mean, that's something we look at because, and every, we look at data in terms of 5 dimensions. Is the data correct? Is the data complete? Is the data connected? And is the data consistent? We just talked about consistency. And is the data compliant to contractual and regulations? So these 5 things we look at data quality. And what happens when I say fit for purpose, it could so happen that certain data is maybe incomplete, but for the purpose of AI, you can use synthetic data to go do it. So I think that's something we keep in mind, is that is the data fit for purpose, and does it fall in these 5 dimensions of, hey, can we use the data? And that's what we keep doing that. To answer your question on LLM. So what's your question on LLM again?
Well, since you mentioned the 5 dimensions,
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge for the workers to launch Gen AI-related applications?
So one of the things that, as I said, is you have to have a united data. I mean, that's something that's important. That's one. The data has to be united. Either, we spend a lot of time in keying and linking and do all that. Data has to be united because we have 135 million people interact with us in a month. That's a lot of people. So a 360-degree view of a consumer is absolutely important. So that connection, when I say data connection, that's important. And number 2, there are new tools that's been launched from 2016-17, which is all streaming tools like Kafka. I mean, those things are so important. What happens is that when in Gen AI applications, it is that real-time access to data is what it makes that Gen AI really powerful, because it'll have the most recent information. So the question, data has to be connected. You should have real streaming tools. That makes Gen AI really powerful.
And you brought a thought to my mind when I'm thinking about collecting data. UPS, you're collecting a lot of consumer and business data. Have you run into any challenges in terms of leveraging that set of data for large language model analysis?
Sure. So as you move forward and you're leveraging data to drive business value, it's all about doing so responsibly. And that's kind of at the very nature of being a UPS. Our core values encompass integrity, value, excellence, responsibility. That applies to everything we do, data included. We have specific AI guardrails. We have standards and policies in place that help us with having the right fit for purpose of data for a model, and the context certainly matters. With regard to leveraging LLM, it can unlock, kind of quite a bit more specificity in the type of response that's given to make it more helpful. We're not leveraging technology in a vacuum. It's to help solve a problem. It's helping put that customer first if we're giving a reply to a customer in a virtual assistant, or if we're doing something back office, giving that employee a better experience into how to synthesize and leverage the data. So it's really all about getting the right ecosystem in place for a platform solution overall, and then for a given application, finding the right way to apply the technology. So.
Jumping to you, Manav, I think, as we think about different AI applications and how customers are using it, think about your organization. Can you give us specifics on how you're empowering your employee base to use third-party LLMs to maybe enhance your productivity or workforce. When you're thinking about risk analytics across a customer, are they able to access LLMs to get some insight on that customer in terms of approving or assessing risk?
Yeah, so our big focus has been making sure that we provide the governance on unstructured data before it gets fed into LLMs of any kind. And so the challenge there was that in addition to the unstructured data that was in our data lake, which we had a good handle on, there was a variety of unstructured data across SharePoint sites and so on and so forth. And how do we make sure that there's no sensitive data in there? How do we make sure that if that data is fed into an LLM, that it doesn't get leaked out or used for training, et cetera? So we've spent a considerable amount of time putting those guardrails in place. And then we're using Bedrock within an AWS environment to have the flexibility to choose between LLMs as we build out solutions that are GenAI based.
Yeah, that's a lot of qualifications in terms of using LLMs. Prasanna, in terms of payment processing, how are you managing the use of LLMs in order to make it a more efficient process for the organization?
I mean, the use of the data from payment processing. This is an application that we're doing, which is very interesting to the banks. As you know, that a credit report of a small business is pretty, I would say, 30, 40, 50% are basically, I would say, invisible. You don't have a lot of information. If you have information, it is dated. So, for instance, the credit report of a small business, it takes months to get updated. So we are working with the bureaus where we can, using tools like Kafka and all that, we're able to give payment information on small businesses that can help them to get loans very easily. I mean, much better. But just for those of you who are statisticians, just using payment data, you can approve 5% more loan applications without changing the risk profile. So that's one of the ways we're using payment data to do that. And we're also using payment data to help our merchants. For instance, one of the things we're doing is we have a POS system called Clover. So it's, we help our merchants, we also help our merchants' customers. The way we're helping our merchants using payment data is that they are now can look at and say how they are performing across their peer group. What is their average sales? How are they compared against, on a Monday or a Tuesday? And it's all based on AI, where it goes and gets, using real-time programs to get the data, show exactly how they're performing, and recommending what else they need to do. That's one of the things we're doing with AI. The second thing, obviously, we are not there yet, but we're trying to figure out, which big companies have, is almost like an easy button. Can the merchants hit a easy button to go, reach their customers? So these are some of the things we're doing with the payment data.
We're going to pivot a little bit to ethics, and we're just going to scratch the surface. Mallory, could you give us some insight in terms of organization structure, how UPS is organizing the accountability of AI and the use of it?
Yeah, so as we look at, ethics falls back into that realm of values, and it's, responsible AI is really all of our responsibility. So we're looking at this from a lens of the cultural change involved across the organization, business and technology leaders together. From an accountability lens, we take that very seriously within our technology org. And so as we move forward, we're fully aligned with our leadership on our priorities for where we want to use the technology to drive value. And then again, we leverage our internal processes, our guardrails, and our standards to make sure that anything and everything that we deploy or work with upholds, the very nature of, data ethics, model ethics. You've got to make sure you're covered on information security, compliance, thinking about training of models, but also watching them as they're deployed. That's the observability side and that overall culture. So we're looking at it from a really multifaceted perspective, I would say. And with that in place, what you can do then is drive business value again with these models, whether that's opening up new doors, so using AI to drive new business, like in our UPS digital case, or doing things like improving our efficiency across gateways or the customer experience. So that's really important to get the underpinning right across the full portfolio.
A lot of interesting points. Manav, can you give your parting words of advice for companies looking to start their AI data journey today?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the points that Prasanna made earlier around unifying data and then having the right tools to find insights in that data, the other piece that is critically important is to make sure that you have the right governance structures. And we talked about accountability. Fortunately, in banks, we've put in the various lines of defense, as they're called, first line, second line, third line. And they're designed to put in all the risk assessments and then the controls in place, because human beings can make the same kinds of mistakes that AI does, right? They can have biases, and those controls address those kinds of breakdowns that are potentially possible from human beings, while the same kind of controls need to be applied for AI as well. You need to make sure that there's no bias, there's no hallucination, and it's basically taking those controls, modifying them where necessary, but putting them in place to deliver the right results, which fall back to the organization's values and principles.
Great. We had a lot of inbound questions that we were not able to field on our panel today. Please feel free to reach out to these experts during the networking session, and you'll see them around during the conversation. And I think there's a lot of interesting questions that we couldn't get to in the time limit. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
According to an IBM survey of over 2,000 CEOs worldwide, only 25% of their AI initiatives are delivering their expected ROI. As Client Zero, AI is an incredible opportunity for us to really reimagine how we run the IBM operations, to really bring to life AI across every area of our company. In the past 2 years, we've delivered a significant ROI. If we can do it for IBM, we can absolutely do it for any client in any industry.
So happy to have you with me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk about some more examples of how we can really actually bring AI to life for organizations. How do we help them to use that to improve their operations? You have some great examples to share with us, and I want to start on the theme of the past panel that we just heard from. We're seeing a lot of pressure on industries like telecom, aviation, logistics to operationalize, to improve their operations, but also to manage costs and also to make their clients happy. It's a tricky combination to do it all. So how is IBM helping organizations in these sectors to use AI to improve their operations and to do all of these things together?
So thank you. We're working on a lot of great use cases with our clients. And we've got the obvious use cases in this sector around cutting costs with predictive analytics. So that's things like optimizing routes to reduce fuel consumption and doing a better job of managing crew scheduling to reduce delays. It's all about taking the people and the products and moving them very efficiently through the system. But you also have to, and we've talked a lot about data already today, but you really have to consider the data that AI needs to make these kinds of decisions for logistics. It's weather data, it's the fleet data, it's transport regulations, and it's a mix of the unstructured and structured data. So IBM is helping clients to work with the unstructured data, to ingest it, to enhance it, so that it can be at scale, and then unifying it with the structured data, And now our AI systems have a more complex, aware AI, and that allows us to make more accurate decisions and be more confident about those decisions. So I do have a really great example in this space. We are working with AAR Corporation. They are a private provider of aviation services. And we're talking with them about how do they use generative AI to work on things like improving their parts ordering, their inventory management, warehouse operations, maintenance. And so imagine this scenario. Plane is landing. The maintenance crew is there. They already know the maintenance they're going to perform. They know which parts they're going to replace. The parts are already there because they were already ordered ahead of time. This is possible because of predictive maintenance powered by generative AI. The AI has used historical data. It's used repair logs, sensor inputs. It forecasted the issues before they even happened. So the maintenance crew didn't have to do any assessments. They're just ready to go. Another benefit of this is the inventory management that goes along with it. The right parts are getting ordered at the right time. And then to take even a step further is the natural language communication that can be used through AI to take all of the insights that we're gaining from this use case and put it into the hands of decision makers and the frontline employees so they can figure out the best next steps. So what you have is you have a solution that is driving productivity, it's reducing costs, and it's actually improving flight safety.
We heard this from Greg at the beginning and in our last panel. So many organizations are sitting on top of massive amounts of data,
yes,
but they don't know how to actually turn that into effective strategies. So what are you seeing from examples of customers or others who you've seen as effective strategies for actually unlocking value from that data using AI?
Yes, and the challenge here is really knowing where to start, because as I think we've mentioned a couple times today, there is a lot of effort that is going into the pre-processing of all this unstructured data. It's leaving very little time for actually gaining the insights that AI can bring us. And a company's competitive advantage is its own data. It's emails, it's Slack messages, it's presentations, it's audio files. This is all very difficult and time-consuming to process to make it into something where the value can be unlocked. And if a company doesn't have a solution in place to do this, they're just missing the full potential of what AI can bring. IBM is working with clients in our watsonx platform to be able to help them ingest this data and really help to transform and deliver it where it needs to be to help them achieve that goal. So a couple of examples on where we're doing this with clients today. We are working with, we have a great partnership with Ferrari, and we've recently helped them redesign their entire mobile app. And so this is for Formula One fans, and it's delivering an experience that includes almost real-time simulations, car strategies, telemetry data from the cars, the weather conditions on the track, and it's pulling all of that from race data. Now there's volumes and volumes of race data, and this solution is processing 1 million data points per second at this point. But that's what it takes to be able to deliver this new rich and immersive experience that these Formula One fans are getting now from Ferrari. So it's a really exciting use case. Another company we've partnered with is Lockheed Martin. They were looking to modernize their operations, and they used watsonx.data to create a data fabric across lakehouses and databases and reporting systems. They actually went from 46 disparate systems down to one platform. So aside from the obvious benefit of the consolidation of so many applications, they also leveraged conversational AI to provide an HR solution to their employees, and they were able to, they're in a Gen AI pilot right now where they're already seeing a huge boost in performance and accuracy. So just, two examples of where we're helping clients really manage their data.
Super interesting examples.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious if you at IBM are seeing some interesting examples that you could share as you're putting this into practice for yourselves.
We are, and Greg mentioned it. We are absolutely. In 2023, Arvind Krishna, IBM CEO, he challenged all of us at IBM to reduce expenses by using our own products. And this has turned into something that we now internally refer to as Client Zero. It's basically drinking our own champagne. And what we're doing is we are using our own products to solve business problems. But what's great about this is IBM's business problems are the same as every other large corporation. So what this experience gave us, in addition to the reduction in expense, is it really gave us a lot of great experience and insight and learnings that we could then share with all of our clients. And I could really talk about this probably for hours because it's a very exciting experience, but I'll give a quick summary of how we did it. The whole thing is based around our watsonx platform, but specifically we used watsonx Orchestrate and deployed agents across business domains. So HR, procurement, finance, just to name a few. And what the agents did was they automated repetitive tasks, they streamlined workflows, and they provided a lot of performance benefits for things like invoice reconciliation, HR onboarding, the vendor management, access provisioning. The amount of productivity we gained is just amazing. I mean, just to give you a flavor, our HR agent, internally we call it Ask HR, and it has over, at this point, 10 million interactions, and it has automated over 765,000 tasks. And over 90% now of all HR inquiries are going through Ask HR rather than calling somebody live. So, what this has done for us is obviously, again, productivity gains, expense reduction, but also it really boosted the employee experience. And as a user myself, I can assure you that it is a much better experience than it used to be.
And can you give us one quick takeaway from your experience of being Client Zero? What's a lesson that you then would pass on to clients?
Well, the one that I always talk about really is about having a strong AI governance strategy. And in the last panel, I think we had a great discussion about responsible AI and the importance of governance. So that's really top on my list. But aside from that, what we're able now to offer our clients is that we've kind of taken everything we learned with the business domain specific customizations that we made. We were continually testing and refining our agentic architecture. We were really building ethical AI practices and templates. We've put them all into pre-built agents. So now that can help our clients accelerate their time to value because they'll just get there much quicker if they can start with a template.
Amazing. Maureen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Put your imagination hats on. Think you have a team of assistants working with you every day. One of them sorts screens, emails, organizes them for you, sends any follow-ups that are required. The other agent comes in, goes through all your meetings, takes notes, again, sends through all the follow-up requirements. The best part, both of them handle their job without a lot of scrutiny from your end, freeing up a lot of time, so you can focus on all the strategic work and things that matter. how many people in this room have these assistants or would like to have these assistants? Can I please see a raise of hands? The others are just sloggers like me, seriously. Again, raise of hands. Who all would like these assistants? Perfect. So, ta-da! Agentic AI to the rescue. So you have exactly these purpose-built agents that are coming your way to solve exactly these workflow issues. But now, let's take one more step further. For our banking friends out here, we have another agent who does automatic credit risk assessment for loan applications, and it uses a combination of external and internal data, scores, credit scores, financial information, social media sentiment, etc. It is known to be perfect, can process multiple factors, can identify patterns, signals perhaps that a human eye will miss. And unlike our credit associate team that takes a day to complete, say, 100 applications, super efficient team, this one does it in minutes. And as a result, management is scaling this business now. So we have a lot more of, we can do a lot more business. Now, last month, the third-party provider had a change in data schema, and annual income is now showing up in monthly income. So your clients are appearing 12 times more richer than they actually are, and this model is underwriting loans on that basis. You're a very fast team. You identify that topic, the problem. 100 applications in a few minutes. Took you 3 days to figure out what exactly was going on. So you see where this is going? That too is agentic AI for you. It's AI on steroids. Obviously, this is the one key issue that's top of mind for all large data professionals, tech professionals, all large companies. And we have just the right guest to address these issues and talk about these problems with. Quick introduction. I am Diksha Gera. I lead fintech and payments coverage for Bloomberg Intelligence. We are the in-house research department within Bloomberg, and we are about 500 analysts, associates, and editors spread across all the major regions across the world. And I'm really amazed and happy and excited to have Ashley Regner, who's the Chief Data Officer at WellsFargo, to share a lot more about all these challenges and more, be it around data, be it around value realization, ROI on AI projects, strategic alignment, or talent and organizational readiness. So fasten your seatbelts and let's get going. So actually, you have had 20 years of experience managing data for large organizations. When we started back in the day, data was one of the back office considerations. No CEO will really lose sleep over it. How has the role of data evolved from where you started to where it is now?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having us. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here with all of you and to learn from you from some of the networking later. But when I think about the role of data, we even talked about it on the first panel. It started with all of us trying to make sure our data was accurate and complete and had the highest level of quality. Then we kind of went through this generation where, okay, it's not about our data, it's how does our data compare with others in the industry, thinking about systemic risk and how do we think about the industry as a whole. How do we plan for the risk of the unknown by putting our data together and creating the power there? We're in the third generation of that. Now it's the foundation of data and how are we using that data, which served us well in those first two generations for really the foundation of AI, creating that competitive advantage focused on growth. So we're in the third generation now.
Exactly. Data and competitive advantage in this generation, right? How many data and tech professionals in the audience? Can I again see if you guys thought this was just going to be a one-way communication, it's not. So please be ready to answer questions when they come to you as well. Raise of hands, how many of you are data and tech professionals? So how many of you think your company's sorted on your data is AI ready? Show of hands again. That is less than 1-2% of what we saw earlier. And it's not surprising, right? 63% of organizations either do not have or are unsure if they have their right data management practices for AI adoption. This is a survey done by Gartner. In fact, Gartner predicts that through 2026, companies will abandon 60% of AI projects because they are backed by unready data. The data is not AI ready. Ashley, what does it take to build the foundation for AI transformations?
Yeah, I mean, as we think about the building, it's really the combination. Many of you raise your hand being both data and technology. But when we bring the combination of data, technology, and the business together, that really unleashes a different level of power for us. I think historically we've worked in silos, and now working across has really unlocked that potential of really accelerating growth.
Awesome. So marrying tech and business, data being the priest. How else, so we've seen a lot of companies go on their data transformation journeys, their cloud transition. How does that play out into the whole new AI adoption journey that a lot of companies are going through?
Yeah, I mean, if we think about it, 5 years ago, we were talking about your multi-cloud strategy and where you wanted to go, and if you needed to be in the cloud or if you needed to be on-prem, and how you thought about where you were storing, how you were computing, et cetera. I mean, those conversations have still evolved, but I think they've gone to the next level of how are we thinking about staging the foundation to actually use it in the agentic environment. So we've moved from the kind of gen environment where we have the models that are learning to really agentic, and how are we deploying those within our company. So in 5 short years, the conversation is still the same, but we've progressed pretty rapidly.
Yeah, that we all can attest to. Yeah. I'd like to delve a little bit more deeper into the AI and data strategy with a specific lens of creating business value. You've done a lot of transformation work. So where do you see the biggest delta of the AI initiatives that WellsFargo is working on?
Yeah, we have hundreds of different initiatives in the queue that we're working on. But if you think about where we've seen the greatest impact, there's really two branches of that. We talked a little bit about it with the employee experience. So thinking about how are we thinking about our employees, our efficiencies, how are they experiencing the work that we do every day? The second one is really how are we taking the knowledge and the insights around our business and driving customer value. So, we have different solutions, whether they are, developer, productivity, or they are looking at contract management from vendor procurement. There's lots of different ways that we've used it, but really taking an example from a customer experience is taking all of the information that we've received in call centers for years and years, understanding how do we actually learn, what are our customers wanting, what did we need to make easier for them to get, how do we accelerate that and bring new products to market. So that's actually how we're even going back to look at maybe previous ways of doing it and new insights, new growth opportunities that we have.
Absolutely. And I think one example that we were just talking about before we got on stage was when you call a bank with a card issue, how frustrating it is to have to wait another time when you say it's a card problem. There are 2 different departments on the back end. One is a credit card department and a debit card department, and then you have to wait to be routed to the exact department, right? So it's almost like music to my ears to hear that you're figuring that part out, and now it's more like what problem am I coming in from, and then how you can get organized internally, use that information to kind of route calls or...
Yeah, from your experience, you just need a new card.
Exactly.
From our experience, we have 2 completely different divisions that provide that for you. So figuring out how do we actually know what you need before you need it, and even put it in a digital application where you don't even have to call it all.
Don't make me cry, okay? Another data point in the Gartner study that was just talking about, so the survey found that only 48% of AI projects make it to production, and it takes 8 months to go from AI prototype to production. And then they also say that at least 30% of the projects will be abandoned because after proof of concept, due to either poor data availability or inadequate risk controls, escalating costs, or unclear business value. So, developing and maintaining AI infrastructure is expensive, right?
Yes.
How do you evaluate ROI on these projects?
Well, I think all of us are probably in the early innings of figuring out ROI and the value proposition, but we are exploring different ways of doing it. And so, as we think about intake, we look at where is it coming from, which businesses is supporting. We look at the value creation of that particular product. But also one of the things that we're looking for is prioritizing the ones where we can create a common capability and apply it to every business. So where do you get the multiplier? Where do you get the scale? And really prioritizing those at the top of the list and starting work through those. I would also tell you, we used to look at efficiencies. We wanted to focus on internal opportunities first. That's recently pivoted, right? I would tell you we prioritize more of the customer and growth opportunities more so than the others. So it's a little bit more of a matrix framework at this point, but we learn. We learn something new every time we think about, we're learning not only the value, but also how much does it cost to build. So
that's interesting, right? Like we've always thought as AI particularly as a cost reduction tool in a lot many ways. So it's quite refreshing that banks too are looking at it from a growth lens. There is, however, a lot of pressure on executives, on leadership to accelerate AI adoption. That some of us can see is also causing a bit of agentic washing. Like we hear things that are basically automatable are being called as AI agents. Not everything is AI, but I mean, still from a leadership standpoint, like how should business leaders balance the pressure to adopt AI-driven solutions and still balance that with, say, responsible governance, workforce alignment, like all those considerations and measurable ROI?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would tell you it's a challenge. At first everyone said we should, bring it together and try to control it. And then everyone was using their iPads, right? Or their iPhones to get access to the tools. If you think about it, we did a couple of different things. So your point on AI, Gen AI versus agentic, those are two different risk components, two different frameworks, using similar principles. But when we think about the first aspect is we equipped the businesses. We equipped everyone that's in the line of business. So recently we actually announced that we are actually rolling out all of the suite of tools that we have across the company to every single employee. Okay. But we're putting it in the environment around our firewall where we're protecting the data, we're protecting how they're playing. And so that's one way to kind of accelerate the adoption and the mindset of experiencing how AI can change what you do and how your customers experience your brand. So that's the first one, is empowering the businesses. But for those cases that have the highest risk, where you're thinking about, agentic AI, where it's working on behalf of another person or it's in an access environment, I mean, it's really important to make sure that you do have the governance. I think both panels before really talked about that AI framework and the governance considerations. And so where it's agentic, we actually have a centralized team that is driving that AI lifecycle. For agentic, we have, all the right partners at the table. And so, using the guardrails in a centralized way, that's given us a lot of security and making sure that we have the security right, but it's also accelerated the development, right? Prioritization, investments, they're all coming to that forum. So taking the investments from there and growing. So where we can empower businesses, let them play. Where we actually need to maybe think about agentic and the risk differently, centralized control while we're still learning, and know what guardrails we need to put up as a company.
That makes absolute sense, right? And that actually brings us to the very pertinent issue around security. Yeah. So across all our conversations, this has constantly kept coming up. I want to spend some more time on this. So there are multiple security risks to consider, right, when you're implementing AI. Shadow AI is creeping up in software development. A large chunk of developers actually admit to using unauthorized AI tools for work, which is putting companies at risk. AI cloud workloads are far more susceptible to critical vulnerabilities. So all of those factors, and financial services is a highly regulated and, dare I say, a very risk-averse industry as well, right? How do you assess these risks? Share with us some examples, and also how are you managing them? We had some great examples on developer tools, but I'd love to hear more about that.
I mean, first of all, I think you have to start having the right conversations early. I mean, there was the very beginning days of how do we want to think about the committee, how do we want to think about how we're governing this stuff. You have information security risk there, you have model risk there, you have the data team, you have the tech teams, you have the business team. So I would say very early in the process, bringing the right partners to the table and then anchoring higher in the organization. It's not for your directs and their directs and their directs to make some of these trade-offs. These are risk decisions. So anchor those conversations higher in the organization. Get your executives in. Help them understand the risk of, everyone wants speed at scale, right? Sometimes there's a trade-off in speed at scale that you have to consider and make some of those trade-offs. So I think information security risk, some of the things that we've talked about is, an example, right now employees and associates are drafting emails and they are, creating new unstructured and sometimes structured data within the company. If you have agents working in your company, think about how do you know if it's an agent versus an employee, and how do you think about insider threats versus external threats? We've built entire frameworks around external threat detection, and we're having to leverage a lot of those risk profiles to do the same thing for internal threat detections now. So being really smart, also, just continuously expanding the way that you would maybe think that you could have those risks. Before, maybe they were straightforward. You got a little be creative. Not only do you have to be creative in building it, but you got to be creative in figuring out how you would attack yourself if you were on the other side.
That's really interesting. So all the compliance training that we guys do, the agents will also have to do that. There's a little bit of sadistic.
I bet they'll get 100 on their test.
So security is a known challenge now.
Yeah.
What do you think will really make or break AI adoption in financial services? Is it regulation? Is it tech? Or is it talent? And by the way, while you collect your thoughts, let me ask the audience, how many of you think that regulation is a bottleneck for AI adoption in banking?
We have a very popular table over here.
That is all? Okay, I think we have lesser bankers in the room. Otherwise, every hand would be up in the air right now. So one thing we'd love to bash is regulations. How many of you think tech is a challenge? And by tech being a challenge, it could be around legacy systems, rising costs of tech. What is tech the biggest challenge for AI adoption in banking?
We've got a couple.
Okay. And how about skills, talent?
Right. We have more hands on talent.
Exactly. So let's come down to all of these, right? Let's start with regulations. I know this is a controversial topic, but what is the one thing, and don't tell me it's nothing, because I know every banker has this one thing you wished the regulators understood or appreciated better.
Yeah.
What is that one thing?
It's a really hard question, because I think I might have a list. But absent of that,
we have one authentic speaker on stage. Thank you.
No, I actually think now is the time to reimagine banking. I think that we've all been on this cusp of imagining what does it look like in the future? How do we actually transact money? If you think about our kids, like their iPhone is their bank, right? Thinking about how do we actually transact and create a banking environment for our customers in the future. I think our regulators want to be on that journey with us just as much as we are. And so I actually would say, come along. Like the thing I would call and say is like, come and learn it with us. Come and be a part of the solution. As an industry, we've all got to get there and we've got to move faster. Yep. Building trust at scale is really difficult when you have systemically important institutions that you're trying to manage risk and growth at the same time. So I would invite them to come along with us and reimagine banking.
That's very daring, but yeah,
daring.
Sure.
Come on.
Okay, hiring and talent.
Yeah.
Business transformation often requires the entire culture to change. What are you doing to address that? And it is a very interesting time, right?
It is. And I think, if you think about our culture today, sometimes like we're a little afraid of change, right? People are a little afraid. For us at WellsFargo, 2025, the beginning of the year, less than 6 months ago, we actually merged the data organization with the technology organization. And we merged them, we integrated them into one team, so all of our products are fully blended between them. And it really kind of changed the mindset and the culture of learning how to speak the same language and really have the same common goal on the outside. So think about culture. I would say the other thing, real practice is, in the data organization specifically, we've been focused on equipping everyone with the tools. We have 7 different solutions and, from Copilot to Agent Space, et cetera, all available for our associates. So equipping them, educating them, and empowering them to get their hands dirty, right? One of the things I've learned with this new intern class is they want to play. They want to get in there. They want to learn how to do it. Yeah. Every one of them wants to be an AI champion. And then, 90% of the rest of my organization is afraid that they're going to mess up something. So it's hard to erase that risk mindset all the time. But
I think it's
they're
about
excited.
change to intermingle those two classes, right? Like it's obviously a very fun exercise. So we're very close to time, but I still want to go through my rapid fire round.
Oh, mercy. Okay. I'm in the hot seat. You guys should come up here.
They too were in the hot seat for a bit. But okay, so one AI tool you actually use daily.
Oh, Notebook LM.
Notebook LM.
Every
That's a
day.
good one.
Are y'all all using it? Like, it's changing my life.
Yeah.
Love it.
Your biggest aha moment in this role?
In this role, I thought, and maybe you guys can relate, I kind of thought that AI would be an accelerator for growth. I didn't know that it was going to be the only piece of like our it was going to be our competitive advantage.
Competitive advantage?
Yeah, I think it was going to be accelerator, and I really have changed it. Like, it will be the competitive advantage. Whoever gets there first can change the business model. That will be who will be able to deliver in the next decade. And I didn't realize the pressure on it to move this fast.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What is the most overrated AI trend in banking?
Overrated trend? What's the overrated trend? I think the most underrated trend is humans.
Okay.
I think we've kind of like discounted humans along the way. We think about like, in order to program this stuff, in order to know, I mean, you and I were even talking about an example where the data that came back to you was incorrect, right? If it was just the machine, you wouldn't have even known that. So, I think humans are underrated. I don't know that I know
That's
what
a beautiful answer. Everyone loves to hear that
Yeah.
now. So what is the one challenge you underestimated when you picked up this role?
Oh. The one I talk about the most is probably the complexity of data. I mean, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of data sources. We have structured data, unstructured data. I mean, y'all think about 70 million customers. Like, there's data everywhere.
Structured was fine, but this whole social media and unstructured data is a completely different paradigm, right?
It is. And just being able to, the growth of the data in our company. I saw some of the participants here. You've got AT&T, you've got a lot of telecom companies, like they're in that same challenge. But the amount of data that we're having to plan for I didn't understand the scale and how fast it would grow.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on the stat, but I think 90% of the data was created in the last 2 years or some number like that.
I could believe it.
Yeah. But okay, last question.
Oh, good. Out of the hot seat soon.
One piece of advice that you'll give to executives who are undergoing a business transformation and adopting AI?
I would say for everyone in the room, play. Like, get the tools on your phone. Like, I planned my trip to Asheville, North Carolina using, Copilot and ChatGPT.
I do that all the time.
I'm like, my to-do list, my kid meal planning, interior design, like, and within the company, like, I'm playing to see what happens. Like, there's some really funny prompts at the end of your week if you're wanting to see how your week, where you spent your time. Like, there's some really cool things to do, and I actually think that the more, I was inspired by our leader, Bridget, to, take information that's publicly available and do cool things with it for your team. Like, we're training our teams differently. I mean, my team gets a podcast every week from me. By the way, that's Notebook LM. It's an automated tool, So I think playing and just kind of learning what can be done. The art of the possible is in a really exciting time to be in banking. So anyway.
Phenomenal. So I normally summarize one thing that everyone should take away, but I think you did a fantastic job. Guys, just go play.
Go play.
You're at time. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ashley. It was
so
amazing.
I want to do a little bit more participation from the audience. I think last year I asked the question exactly a year ago, who's using AI on a daily basis? But now I think the question is, raise your hand if you're not using AI on a daily basis. Two people. So that's the audience that we have right now, and I would imagine it's an audience that's similar watching online. I think it's fair to say that everybody watching and here knows United Airlines and what United Airlines does. Everybody knows what Verizon does. So Ahmed, I'm going to put you in the hot seat and just have you explain how people in this room might have interacted with ServiceNow without actually even knowing they were interacting with it.
Yeah, no, first, thanks for having me here, and hello, everyone. So ServiceNow, probably if you do anything with IT or technology requests inside your company, ServiceNow was the heritage company in terms of helping case management and any kind of ticketing systems. But it's pretty much a platform for automation. So anything you want to run inside request or get help, ServiceNow is a platform usually every company uses today. And we probably have 80% of Fortune 2000 companies using ServiceNow. And a lot of times, as you said, you might not realize it, but most of the back end is using ServiceNow.
Would you say that you're using AI more internally or externally for clients who are using the product right now?
I think both. I mean, internally, for sure, we've been using AI in our products. We use it internally based on the products we have built. But our customers today, we have a huge amount of investment around AI. We will be probably $1 billion revenue on AI products by next year, which is AI specific. So we've been investing aggressively in AI, and our customers are really adopting it very quickly as well.
Christina, come on in here. At Verizon, I know you oversee talent and people, so that's your purview. But as a Verizon customer, how am I actually interacting with AI on the back end? Might not know it.
I think there's a lot of ways. I think first, the obvious is the people that you talk to are leveraging AI to serve you as best they can.
So customer service or salespeople or all of the above?
Even the way that we recruit them to get them to a place to talk to you is leveraging AI. And
what do you mean by that?
So I'll give you an example. We hire 20,000 people a year at Verizon. We get 900,000 resumes, 60,000 interviews, 200,000 assessments. It's impossible.
Repeat those numbers.
900,000 resumes a year, 60,000 interviews a year, 200,000 assessments, 20,000 jobs a year we hire. So it's impossible to do all of that at the speed in which we need people in our stores or on our trucks without an AI as an enabler in order to support that process. And so even before you talk to anyone on the phone or in our store or in your home, to get them to that place, we've leveraged AI in a heck of a lot of ways, including training and getting them onboarded and up to speed. And so we've got lots and lots of examples of the enablement of our workforce that stems from embedding AI in the processes.
We're going to get to some of those in a few minutes. Stacey, I want to bring you in here. At United, I think a lot of people are familiar with the United mobile app. That's not what you oversee, but some of the experiences that people have when they're flying or within the mobile app is in your purview. Explain what those are.
Yeah, totally. Well, maybe we zoom out for a minute. We now fly over 500,000 people a day. There's some days now where there's 600,000 customers traveling with us. We have grown tremendously. We have over 1,000 aircraft, thousands of flights a day. And the industry is growing. And so I like to just lay down the gauntlet and say, we actually are an optimization dream everywhere you look. In fact, the industry and United is getting so big, it's going to get tougher and tougher to operate without this technology capability. And so traditional AI and machine learning has been in our DNA for a long time, almost a decade. It's something that's just been important to us, our secret sauce. But today, with generative AI and over the last couple of years, there were a few things we saw that were really compelling. One, it speaks so many languages. Two, it understands accents. Three, the nuance of language
speed matters in our industry. And yet culturally, aviation has always been a little bit about waiting. You go to the lobby to wait in line. You go to the gate to wait. There's a little bit of this cultural acceptance that when you call during really busy times like weather, you might have to wait. And we are challenging all those norms. We want to be different, and we see this as a way to begin to do that, especially when you're interacting with our customer support and advocacy group. They've made it their mission to help you, but have speed to service with high quality. And these tools, taking the research out, leaves them with the things that they're best at: travel and caring about you.
So the whole takeaway that we want from this afternoon is return on investment, how you're making sure that you're saving money, you're using AI in an affordable way, you're deploying these tools in a way that actually makes sense to the bottom line, because we've heard so much about how much is being invested. Amit, talk to us about that and what you've been able to do at ServiceNow, not just internally, but externally too, and tell us how much you've saved, where you've saved the money, what it's done to headcount. Give us the numbers there.
No, I think we definitely have been very aggressive about using AI, especially agentic AI, the idea of having automation with AI agents to really improve how you run and operate every part of our business. And that includes starting with customer service. And you talked about how you're using it for customer asking for questions. Today, we have a case volume, I would say, has gone up by 40%. The business has grown very fast over the last 2 years. And my headcount for customer service team is pretty flat. And and also the retention rate of the customer service team is probably much better than it used to be a couple of years ago, because it's much easier for them to manage and maintain the kind of quality required by our customers. Because there's a lot of self-service improvements happening. Be able to answer questions in a much more better way, in a timely way, and solve a lot of those things. It's not just giving the answers back, but actioning that solution and getting that work done in the back end to fix that problem and get that resolved through AI agents has been really, really valuable. We probably deflect around 75% of our case volume now, which has become much more self-service, and the idea of just getting everything done without having to call and talk to people.
How do you know that that's working for the customer, though?
Because our CSATs are going up, right? So we do measure a lot of our NPI scores as well as CSAT, and most of the customers tell us, one, the accuracy is better, second, the timeliness, as well as to be able to kind of also find information which you might have not asked for, where this AI services are able to give you that kind of insights. Hey, this is what you need going forward as well. So I think the way we measure it is really CSAT as well as the amount of customer getting live faster, right? So if I see a customer who's bought a software, if it takes them historically three to 4 months to go live, if we were able to get them done in 1.5 months to 2 months, that's a much better return on investment for our customers. And we see that back to us in a customer CSAT as well. So,
Christina, jump in.
Please.
No.
Christina, I was going to say that a big part of your job is to deploy these tools to a large number of people from a training perspective. And I think one thing that I've noticed, just in my own experience about these tools being rolled out, is that they're sort of adopted in a lumpy way, in the sense of, okay, well, if we have this enterprise version of an LLM that's approved, you have to go through a training to do it. You have to use the approved version, and then, or you could just use Perplexity on your phone and maybe come up with the same results. How do you do this? How do you get buy-in from folks internally and culturally?
Yeah, I'm going to give you an answer that's a little bit of a spin on training and more focused on development, because I've got an example that gets to all the pieces of your question. So we, like other organizations, have significant technology investments in platforms and systems for HR. And they work really great if there's data in them. And we've got job data, we've got employee data, we've got organizational hierarchy data, but what was missing is the individual skills, experience, and kind of resume data for our people. And so we spend hundreds of millions of dollars on these platforms, but they're not being optimized for their fullest value if they don't work to their fullest value. And so with all the buy-in campaigns and change management campaigns, I couldn't get our employee population to upload information into their profile greater than 5% of our population. And we did a lot of great communications and fun, jazzy stuff like everybody else. But you know what they do update is LinkedIn. And everything on the internet is available information that would be super helpful if it was in my system. And so what we did was use AI to pull all publicly scrapable data and infuse it into my employee profiles, 65,000 employee profiles. And we asked the employees, how accurate is it? 90% plus accurate. Then we allowed generative AI to give us inferences around skills and experiences and suggestions around our employees for open jobs or capability gaps. To start, over 75% accurate and getting smarter and smarter as we continue to make these things work. So the ROI there is really threefold. First, we are optimizing our tech investments that we've already made. Second, we really are enabling our employees to feel more empowered around the career development that they choose. So they will get nudges for jobs they didn't know they're qualified for. They will get suggestions for training based on the interests that they have as far as a career path. And so the employee engagement, the retention significantly went up. Internal mobility, so people moving across different job families and really expanding their skill set and really taking control of their career, up 10% in the first month of turning this on. And then when I think about it from an executive perspective or a talent perspective, the supply-demand ratio is not favorable for me for hot jobs. It is really silly to think that I will have all of the people I need in the most in-demand jobs when I need them and beat everybody else in the market. But what I do know, though, is now where there are untapped resources and capabilities within my workforce that I didn't even know existed because I didn't have the data that showed me how qualified, capable, and skilled my employees are. So now my team can re-recruit and we can redeploy based on business needs in a really fast way. And so the wins here are for our employees from a workforce planning and an executive business perspective, and then also from a let's protect the tech that we've already invested in and let the tools work to their most optimal way.
Stacy, I want to bring you in and talk a little bit about aircraft maintenance because anyone who knows me knows I love talking about planes. And when you and I spoke a few weeks ago, you said that there are sometimes up to 50,000 different parts in an airplane. And one thing that you do as Vice President of Digital Tech at United is deploy technology across United Airlines to help make the maintenance of these aircraft more seamless. And you were telling me before this that you're often traveling to different parts of the country to United hubs and actually visiting the maintenance facilities. How does technology make it so that we as customers are experiencing fewer delays as a result of making sure that your team is proactive about what needs to be addressed on a certain aircraft?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. See, we're unveiling like how complicated an industry it is. We all work for really complicated industries, and that's what's so great about this tech. I can give you an example. You know, you think about a tire. That's a part everybody knows. A tire. Well, what do tires do on your car? They wear, and eventually you need to get a new tire, right? Well, the same thing happens on a tire on an aircraft. But now we have the ability to predict, you know, based on a bunch of criteria and, of course, over the lens of a technician, how is the tire doing and when will it naturally need to be replaced? And, oh, by the way, where is that aircraft flying? And do they have tires? Hot weather? Because tires wear out when it's hot. I think we know that in Atlanta. Do they have technicians, the people, the tooling to do it? And so often we can now say it's actually more cost effective to change the tire today in Chicago once we're done flying versus take that aircraft with that tire on its next few segments and wait for, you know, the clock to be up of, hey, now it's time to do it. And so those are the incredible things that we're doing at the airline and we're thinking about to decrease what you talked about. We don't like delays. We want everybody to get where they're going.
But if their plane is delayed, there's a way for aircraft to be held at maybe you're flying to a hub to make a connection, and the app will automatically tell you whether or not you're going to make that connection.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's so many other things beyond the part that we're doing. Things like our wonderful operations teams, they have tools that help them figure out, can they swap the aircraft? Can they swap it with an aircraft that's supposed to leave later? So that allows us to do the maintenance work, and we have enough, a bigger time window. We have amazing tools like Connection Saver, which came from, my understanding is, a pilot's idea where he said, I watch customers run up to the gate. I can see them through the window in the airport, and we just closed the door, and then we waited. Like, surely someone can do something about this and knows, do we really have to go now, or do we have 10 more minutes? And yeah, we tell our customers, and that's where Every Flight Has a Story comes in, where we'll send messages to customers when flights are delayed now, and they're more and more curated for that particular flight because of what's happening with generative AI. We call it Every Flight Has a Gen AI Story now. And we'll actually tell customers, we're holding your flight for other customers so they can make their connection. And the crazy thing is, when that group gets on the plane, everyone claps. Like, everyone is happy for that group.
I never see those videos go viral.
Oh, we'll send you some.
Okay. But I want to back out a little bit and talk big picture here, because a big part of the conversation, or a theme that has been like a thread of the themes today, have really been about security.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who knows, played with LLMs, understand hallucinations and garbage in, garbage out. You're only as good as the data that this stuff is trained on. If you're doing this at a high level for customers that have high expectations, and humans are not overrated, humans are underrated, how do you make sure that what you provide to them and what you provide to your team is right?
Yeah. No, it's a very, very critical question, especially for enterprises, right? So if you're deploying any of this technology, one, you want to guarantee it's secured. There's a risk management, compliance, all those things come into play. So what we do today, we have, on the product side, we ensure a lot of prompt engineering and testing happens before any of our services go live. And then on top of that, there's a lot of measurement which happens through a central control. We have a product called AI Control Tower. The idea behind that is to register any kind of AI agents which you might be using inside your organization, not just from ServiceNow, but third party, and auto-discover them. We used to do that very well for any kind of hardware and software deployment inside any company. And now we're adding AI agents to the same kind of mindset. So if you kind of go and discover them and track any kind of interaction you've had with it, in terms of the life cycle, versioning, any kind of access, what changes did you make, who was the provider, all that capabilities are captured through the central console, and then it manages the whole life cycle around it, and that gives you a lot more ability to really get much confidence in terms of what you deploy, as well as get measurements in terms of whether it's working or not working, and can you roll back or make changes, or do you really need to bring human in the loop as well, depending on how the systems are working for you. So security has to be built in as part of the core product, but then you also have to go and monitor and manage that across all the different deployments you've had. And the proliferation today is pretty large, not just by IT, but every other department. So auto-discovering and tracking and managing that becomes a very, very critical job. And that's what we do today with a lot of the deployments across every enterprise.
We often like to talk about the successes and what has worked across different industries and across different businesses and in certain businesses. But I'm curious if any of you three have examples of when you've had an idea or somebody on your team has had an idea of a deployment of a technology, Gen AI or some sort of AI adjacent technology, and it didn't work.
I can give an example that ties back to the recruiting piece. AI isn't for everybody or every job. And so there are certain jobs that AI is super helpful for to help speed up interviews. They're fast-paced interviews, lots of volume, same questions that make sense for that type of job. And then there are other jobs that have different nuance and require that nuance of a human to care for that, either screening or first-round interview. And so we learned that it's not one size fits all, and that we have to be thoughtful about that. I think the other thing I would add is with any type of generative AI, you have to, and we talked about this a few minutes ago on the last panel, you have to teach it and you have to get in there with it and help it learn. And so I think, we thought it would be a kind of a cure-all when we threw it out there and we said these are the skills we want to rank the highest. And when we get back, we realize, sometimes our prompts aren't working, or sometimes what we thought was a prompt is actually not giving us the results we need, and we have to fix that. So
I'll give you two fun examples. Like many of you probably have, we created United GPT. You take a version of GPT, you put it in-house, it doesn't go back out to the internet, you encourage everybody to use it. And that's part of a change management strategy, but also giving your employees, the tools to try it out for themselves. And we were seeing really low adoption rates. So we told everybody they could use it to write their self-assessment at the year-end performance cycle. It went up like 425% in adoption. So that was one, and it's just how you tell the story. The second one is, I mentioned earlier, those text messages we send when you're delayed. When we were starting to implement Gen AI in those, and we were testing it before we went live, we were going through, I think, what a lot of people go through, where you're like, oh, no, don't say that word. No, instead of this word, say that word. No, don't say pilot, say crew. Like, you could go down the list of things, and it actually was getting worse. And so we called one of our partners and said, we're still learning how to do this. Can you help us? And they explained it very simply. They said it can be very much like a person. If someone says to you, Stacy, don't do that, don't do that. Do this, though. Instead of this, do that. And your list is long enough, you're going to get confused. And so will this technology. And so we had to make some choices, and we had to structure, the things that we did want to change in the model.
Well, everyone still thinks it's weird that I say please to Chat GPT.
No, actually, I think I've heard, I wish I had a metric or a source, but so I won't take credit for it. You get better results if you're polite to it.
Well, that's not fair.
Well, and I think that you've just, helped us all with the change management
like
for
real
adoption, too.
Real life.
In your example, if you want adoption, push out a tool to support everyone's favorite process mid-year and year-end, and you'll get a heck of a lot of adoption if you make it easy for them.
Well, and the neat thing with that was, when I asked some of my team members, what do you think? They said, I actually spent more time talking to my manager about next steps and growth and development plans versus trying to write a term paper about my performance, and that's not my strength.
I'll just add one thing.
Go ahead, Amit.
The one which we saw a big problem with a few years ago was voice-based. Just getting AI to work with voice and casual conversation, and then you had to kind of take your time to see the technology evolve to something which you can use today. But early days, a lot of excitement was there, a lot of things rolled out, and it failed miserably initially.
Amit, do you think we're overselling, overhyping? We have too much confidence in this technology and what it will do?
I think the technology is definitely here, and it does make a difference. In terms of what use cases make sense is where we need to be very careful about. And I think having a complete solution where it can solve a proper end-to-end problem, identifying that, there is a great ROI on that one. But trying to do it for everything, I think that's a problem we run into sometimes. So I don't think there's going to be an issue with the technology. It's just a matter of how do you adopt it and when do you kind of go face it. I don't think it's overhyped right now.
Whenever you think there's too much hype, just picture Stacy Runkowski at 16 with her grandma, I think it was Webcrawler at the time, searching for that apple pie. And I said, it doesn't work like that. And everything that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, my dream when I graduated from college was to find some sort of search that could find that I could tell what's in my fridge and give me a recipe. And like, that's table stakes now. So it's like the same era. I still can't cook. That's the issue.
And we thought it was all hype back then.
We did. Christina, I want to give you the last word here. If we're sitting here 5 years from now, and you're in this job at Verizon, what's going to be the biggest breakthrough that this technology has brought to you?
I think the biggest breakthrough is getting people to their fullest potential faster.
So you see it as complementing us?
I think it's an enabler of kind of harnessing the power of the people in a faster, more individualized way.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us this afternoon here in Atlanta. That's going to do it for the content portion of our event this afternoon. I do want to thank all of our speakers. I want to thank all of you for being such a terrific audience. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, IBM. If you'd like more information from them, please visit the Resources tab on the event website. And also, you can rewatch any part of this afternoon's event. Just go to BloombergLive.com and you can view it on demand. Thank you so much for joining us today, and most of all, thank you for being such an engaged audience. For those of you who are here in the room, please join us just out here for some cocktails and networking. And for everybody else, goodbye, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.